a little bit earlier that CE planning is what I consider an accentuation to CE assessments. This is the portion where we're allowing probation staff to design a case plan after the needs have been addressed in the previous assessment instrument. So this is sort of our next step after providing or gathering all of the needs from a previous case or JACE assessment. One thing I do want to touch on, we're going into case plans for juveniles. So Title IV-E we know is a big thing. We are actually going to be rolling out a JACE, a CPOC approved Title IV-E case plan. We're planning on having that hopefully at the end of quarter 2014, or excuse me, 2015, quarter 4, possibly at the beginning of quarter 1, 2016. So going to be rolling out here shortly. Now hopefully everybody is able to see my screen. If not, please type into the chat and say that you can. All right. So hopefully this looks familiar to everybody. I am just in CE assessments at this point, and bear with me, this is our test site. So sometimes the certificates are a little bit different and there are things that can run a bit slower. For what we're looking at here, like I said, this should look somewhat familiar or very familiar to anybody who's used CE assessments before. The big change here will be that we now have this icon up here at the top for CE planning, which is going to bring you directly into the case plan portion of things. So from my offender here, my client, and once again this could be a juvenile as well, we'll go ahead and select the CE planning icon here. And we're going to move into the process of building our case plan based off of the needs that the assessment provided. So this is the landing page for our client. This is going to show a lot of their basic information. If you are integrated with Caseload Explorer, this is going to show their supervision start date, their max expiration date, as well as their most serious charge. So we do have some supervision information that will be automatically uploaded into CE planning. Down below, we're going to have the previous assessment history, and this is one piece that will come over if you guys do decide to enable CE planning. All of the previous assessment history for all clients in the system will be automatically uploaded into CE planning. Now down below here is where things, or the ability of CE planning really starts to show, and this is the case plans. So I'm going to walk through just creating a basic case plan just so I can show you guys the capabilities of this. And then at the end we'll have questions. Like I said, it's a very basic setup. The idea of this is to be very simple to use. Now in order to have a case plan and have those needs based off of anything, there has to be a previous assessment. So keep in mind that once again, these are built off of NCCD. So the CASE and JACE assessment instruments, they all have needs that are based off of the outcome of that assessment. Now what we're doing basically by building this case plan is taking those needs and moving forward with what needs to happen essentially at this point. So if we select the plus sign up here at the top right, and for our example here, I will just create a basic adult case plan. And this starts our process here. So to begin, this is something that we're going to be working with the client as we kind of go through this process. So first we have to indicate a problem statement. And we'll save that. Next, we're going to indicate a goal statement. Down below this, we have the ability to add a circle of care. What this is going to be is essentially anybody around the client who has the ability to help them get through this case plan. So we're trying to address the needs that they have and build something that, build sort of a circle of support, essentially, that's going to show them, hey, or allow them to have some sort of support for the goals that they actually need to meet. So this can be anybody from mom, dad, sister, psychiatrist, teachers, counselors, anybody around the client that can help them achieve their goals. I'll go ahead and add a member. This is going to be very similar to CE Assessments and Caseload Explorer if you're familiar with that, where we do require you to search first. And that's simply to avoid any duplicates in the system. There is Tyler's test organization. So we'll just say that this is someone that this client is going to be relying on. Next, we're going to specify the relationship to this client. Once again, this could be mother, father, sister, any sort of family member, psychiatrist, or counselor. And we will add them to the circle of care. Key piece to this, once we've added our problem statement, goal statement, and any members to the circle of care, once again, we could add multiples here. We could have an entire list of people. Next, we're going to move on into the actual needs. And if we click on Add Need down at the bottom, you'll notice that this is going to pull the needs based off of the previous case assessment. And one piece I wanted to touch on a little bit, we had a sync issue last night for just our test site. So there's actually the ability to filter by previous assessments. So if there was a case reassessment that was done after this, we actually have the ability to filter out the needs based off of the assessment that was created in CE Assessments. So you'll notice next to these we have alcohol and drug abuse. This was actually a need based off of the case assessment on 9/30/2015, being yesterday's. So once again, these all will update based off of the previous assessments that are done in CE Assessments. Now this need description and severity level is all based off of NCCD's records. So these are all things that they've told us to incorporate. And for our purposes here, I will just select a couple of these. And then I can save. Now from here we have a list of, once again, the needs that need to be addressed. And these can be filtered or sorted just by dragging and dropping. Once these are completed, they will automatically go back to the bottom of the list. But we can always address them in any order that we would like to. Our next step, once we've designated a need for this specific client, is to move on to creating goals and action steps on how we're actually going to accomplish these goals. So if we click on the plus sign right next to the need, we can select Add Goal. And save. As we start to see this, it's somewhat of a hierarchy based off of what we're actually trying to accomplish here. So we have the need for alcohol and drug abuse. Our goal is now to live a sober lifestyle. And our next step here is to list out the actual action steps that we're going to be using. So how are we going to accomplish this goal at this point? So we can add an action step here. And we'll add a target date. And we'll say that this is at the end of October. And select save. And we can add as many action steps as needed. So as we start to go through all of these, we'll start to notice that there's a specific piece of logic that's built into this. So we're going to say that you cannot complete a goal until you've completed the actual action steps for it. And I'm going to show you guys that functionality here in a second. And once again, just to reiterate, we have had a need that is based off of the previous assessment instrument. We have created a goal to live a sober lifestyle. Now we've created action steps right below that for how we're going to accomplish that goal. Right below that, we can add any progress notes as the month goes by. Maybe there's something that is notable during this time period. So at this point, what we have essentially is the case plan itself is built. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to add action steps or goals to our family history problems. But this is the key piece here, is that we have our needs that are all based off of NCCD's instruments. We have the goals that we actually want to walk through with our client, and then the steps that we're going to do to take them. So in order to actually complete these, like I mentioned before, there is a hierarchy and built-in logic that says this has to be done before something else. So notice if I try to click on this completed or little checkbox to indicate that this need has been completed, it's going to give us a little warning that will say you have to complete goals before completing the need. Once again, if I try to complete my goal, it's going to say that you have to complete your action steps prior to completing this goal. So for our action steps down below, we had a target date of 10/30. And once again, for our purposes here, we'll say that our client did finish both of these. So if we click on the little box next to it, select that as of a certain date, as of 10/28, excuse me, as of 10/1, sorry, this was successful. And we'll say that staying out of bars was also a successful action step as well. Now that these action steps have been completed, we have the ability to complete our actual goal. And that corresponds directly with the need right above it. So we can say that the goal itself, and once again, there could be 10 goals listed underneath this need. But once all of those goals have been completed, we say that we address that need and we can complete it. We'll notice that the completed need drops to the bottom of this list. And we could continue to go through all of these pieces and all of these needs, set our goals and set our action plans for them. Now, all of this is going to be addressed also in a report that we've built, and it's going to show a full list of everything in this case plan. So if we click on this print icon up here at the top right, and depending on the length of the case plan history, this can take some time for it to load. You can see here that this is going to be a full list of all of that previous information. So this will list out a close date if the entire case plan has been closed out and completed. We have a list of all of our needs, action plan, goals, and then down at the bottom we have the ability to have acknowledgement. So if the client themselves needs to sign off on their action plan, everything that they have done, the probation officer can simply print this off and get their signature. Any questions so far, guys?
No, I don't think so.
Did you remove the objective section from your JACE case plan?
What we did is we took sort of a consensus for the wording for that. So when we talk about objectives, the idea is that goals are somewhat similar anyway. The vocabulary a little bit different, but we actually went with as many of the previous instruments that we could find, and goals ended up being the more generic term.
I'm glad you got rid of it. We never used it anyhow.
All right.
Hey, Tyler, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I had a quick question. You went through and showed us basically the case plan or going in and doing it, and then you checked under the needs to be addressed. You created those things and checked them off. But when we're creating the initial plan, we would go in, add all that information, and we would hit complete case plan, and then at a future date we would come back and check those things off as they're achieved.
The case plan itself is not going to be completed until all of the needs are addressed. So you can theoretically complete this case plan, and as you go through, I know that a lot of counties use this sequentially. You guys will have this done at certain times. You always can complete the case plan and then come back and re-edit that information if need be, absolutely. But keep in mind that some of the pieces aren't going to work. You won't be able to add needs after the case plan has been completed.
The idea then is to utilize this to build the plan, to add your different needs areas and all of those types of things, continue to track but never actually complete it until the offender is done with essentially all of the things that they needed to finish?
Correct, yeah, they're going to be, the idea is not to complete it until all action items, goals, and the needs themselves have actually been addressed.
So it continues then to be a live, living action plan or CE planning kind of plan.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Did I miss the place to put in progress notes?
Yes, that is on the, let me see if it will allow me, I'll add another basic case plan here real quick. So after we have our need, and after we add a goal, when we're in the process of adding action steps, there's add progress notes right below that. To address the question of whether or not the case plan flows back into Caseload Explorer, at this point it doesn't, but I actually think that's a great suggestion. If we get the document to auto-upload into Caseload Explorer, I'm going to write that down because I think that's an excellent idea.
And when you say auto-upload, you mean auto-upload back into Caseload Explorer's documents area?
Correct, exactly. That was the question, and currently it does not, but I think that would be an excellent idea. And the idea is that the case plan itself may be printed and signed by the client. So that would be a little tougher to import, but something as an idea to be able to import it back into Caseload Explorer's Documents tab would be useful. There's a question of whether or not the case assessments will show up for other agencies. That's NELM. This is going to be specific to the tenant that's logged in here. So similar to how your guys' CE assessments is set up currently, how you don't see offenders and case assessments for multiple different counties, this is going to be set up the exact same way. It's going to be specific just to your tenant. And if you don't opt to use CE planning, that's totally fine. Everything in CE assessment stays exactly the same. Keep in mind that this is a feature that we are, giving you guys if you would like to use it. Nobody is forced into using this. It's not going to, affect anything contractually. This is simply a feature that we added into CE assessments that you can use if you would like to.
So, Tyler, real quick.
Yes, sir.
So, before any of the action steps, goals, needs are completed, once it's initially created, we're not able to print that out and provide that as documentation to the client as kind of a reminder of what he needs to do to complete these steps?
No, that's a great question. I'm sorry, I didn't touch on that. This actually can be printed. This page and this full list of needs, prior action steps can all be printed at any time. This print icon follows us throughout the entire app. So whether or not there's goals added, action plans added, or as those get added, you can always print this. It's going to be dynamic based off of the progress that you have in CE planning. So right now I don't have a whole lot of information, nothing's completed, but the report is still there, absolutely.
Right, okay, good.
Does completing a reassessment change the CE planning at all?
It does. So unfortunately, I touched on this a little bit earlier. The sync broke for our test site. Rolled out an update just for our test site, which broke it. If you do a reassessment, you'll notice if I go back into needs that I've already added, it won't allow me to add these again. It already exists. Once the reassessment is completed, it will be listed in this dropdown. So you'll have a case reassessment. And on these needs that show up on the left here, it will show case reassessment that was done on, call it 6 months after 9/30. So these needs continue to update based off of what instrument is done in CE assessments. And there's a question of whether or not any data, initial or follow-up, flows back into your own databases. At this point, it does not. Nothing is flowing from planning back into assessments or back into Caseload Explorer. This is sort of a solo application, if you will. It's going one way, essentially. And actually, on that same note, if anybody had suggestions of what data they would like to flow back, either into assessments or into Caseload Explorer, let us know. Because keep in mind, this is a 1.1 or a 1.0 of this product, so we're still building into this, and we're still making feature enhancements. So if there's something you guys would like to flow back into Caseload Explorer, let us know, and we may be able to implement that.
Tyler, another question.
Sure.
So if our agency does decide to go forward with the CE planning, how long is the uploading process? How long does it take for once we contact you and say, yes, we want it, before we can be up and running and using it?
Our plan was to be live, essentially today. We're still rolling out a couple of bug fixes, but from the time that you guys request it, it's going to be next to no time at all. All we're doing is flipping a switch and turning the application on, and the data or into CE planning is not huge by any means, so it should be within a day or two.
Okay.
There are some situations where I start over and create a new assessment because circumstances have changed. If I create a brand new assessment, is that going to change my CE plan?
If you create a brand new assessment for a client, the needs are going to update. Now, are you talking about if you removed it in CE assessments or leaving the old one and creating a brand new one on top of it?
Let's say I have a CE plan in place, but I realize I really want to start over and do a brand new assessment because I have a sense that the juvenile's not SI, he's actually a higher level of risk, and so I just do a complete reassessment with the youth. What will happen to my CE plan?
The plan, what you have to do is create a brand new plan with the new assessment needs. I mean, theoretically, you could add the needs for the new assessment that you just generated, but my recommendation would be to create a brand new case plan because we don't want the previous need to bias the next one. There's a question about reporting functions within the system, and I didn't touch on this too much. This, like I mentioned before, is somewhat of a training, but a lot like a demo as well. On the left-hand side, we'll notice that we have a dashboard icon. And this is going to give us a lot more in the future. Currently, these are just basic statistics that we're pulling from the current, current case plan data that we have. But we are planning on really grinding and building into this dashboard. So that's one more thing. If you guys have stats that you would like to see on this dashboard, I think it was brought up how many case plans are completed, started, and pending during a certain time period. That is something that, if we don't already have built in, we're going to. So the idea here would be from this dashboard, we'll notice, for our example here, we have 85 active plans. The goal within that, actually the next version 1.2, you'll be able to click on this active plans icon, and it's going to bring you a list of all 85 clients that currently have an active plan. So that will work, of course, with goals successfully completed, and this can all be filtered by the date range up here at the top right. Any other questions, concerns, recommendations, anything like that?
Have you ever considered changing your icons to actual words to make it a little more user-friendly?
You mean instead of the being these icons, or are you talking about the CE Connect icons?
The CE Connect icons on the first front page of the, when we go to your program.
I see. That's not a bad idea. We could at least add a label to it, I suppose. I don't know how often that's been brought up, but I'll write that down. I think we could probably do that. There's a question brought up, currently using reports to let supervisors and admins know who has case plans due or overdue. Currently, there is no report that we would have in CE planning that would indicate that we have an overdue or past due case plan. We'll write that down once again as a possible feature that we could add, especially if it's being used by a lot of different counties. It makes sense to us to say, hey, this needs to be done by a certain point as possible due date. We do have the target date for specific goals, so I'd imagine we could probably use that to pull from, but that's a great idea. Where will the Title 4E CPOC approved case plan be housed? So the idea is that it's going to be, housed in the exact same place that a case plan that I just showed you for the adult would be. The big difference is that it's going to be based off of different needs that are all going to be, determined by the CPOC group, and I believe actually already have. We're just working on implementing it. Question, if a step is missed or a goal is past due, does the system notify you in any way other than seeing it from the planning dashboard? At this point, we're working on, actually that's something alerts-wise that we would like to implement, similar to possibly even like pending assessments in CE assessments. But we want to incorporate the ability to have an alert. Currently, that is not in CE planning though.
And where would that alert pop up on? Would it on the home page of their case file or from like an email?
Most likely, what we've done in other products is up here at the top right, there's literally like a little alerts button. It'll say, a count of 5 with a little red icon. I can't tell you exactly what a developer would do, but judging by the alerts that we have in a few other applications, that would be my guess as to how we would implement that.
Okay.
And it would just be from this top toolbar, essentially. There's a little alerts icon up here at the top right. And that would probably follow you throughout the entire application, so it wouldn't just have to be from the dashboard, but that would be your alert notification. Question came up to if an officer completes the JACE assessment and wants the Title 4E case plan for signatures, where would that be, whether it be CE assessments or in CE planning? The answer to that question is that it would be in CE planning. It's a case plan that you would be uploading on the juvenile themselves, and similar to how what we looked at with the previous client, from this main screen you would have a case plan down here at the bottom that would indicate Title 4E. And by printing this, it's going to print that exact same case plan the same way that the adult version works. Any other questions, concerns, recommendations, requests? All right, well, that sounds like the end of it. Feel free, guys, to reach out to anybody here at Audemon. Sales@audemon.com would probably be your best resource. We have a sales team that will be reaching out to all of the people that were invited to this webinar to see if you'd like to go forward with CE planning. We have some recommendations as far as going forward with this data, how we'd like to incorporate older case plans and things like that. So they will be reaching out to you guys shortly. I appreciate everybody's time.
All right.
Hey, Tyler, one more question. How soon will this presentation be on your guys' YouTube channel?
That's a great question. I can probably get it up there by the end of today.
Okay, thanks.